Okay. We are back. And we are at item number 7, new business. And that is a request to issue a public notice for an electrical maintenance and repair contract for Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Harbor. Mr. Grindy.
Yes. As you recall, in our workshop, I brought up numerous items that needed to be repaired this coming year, the 2013-14 year. And this is the list of those items. And what I'm requesting is to go out to bid for these items.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll take any questions, as long as my voice holds up.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
This is all going to go out as a request for one bid on all the items, not
Yes.
not allowing people to bid on selective items.
Correct.
I would so move. Second.
Okay, I hear a motion and a second. Are there any other questions or comments on this item?
Nope.
Okay, and I do not have any. Since this involves money, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Paravano? Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye, and motion passes. Item number 8, we have an informational update on Oyster Point accounts. Let's do the report, then let's do public comment, and then commissioners' questions. So, Mr. Grinnell, report, please.
Yes. You have the staff report before you.
I'm sorry.
Rather than take time
Oh, yes.
to
Okay.
repeat the whole thing, I'll just make a couple of main points. Namely, that in fact there were checks and a few money orders which had not been deposited in a timely manner. At that time, new finance director, upon coming to Oyster Point, discovered these immediately, moved to deposit everything in the bank as it should be, undertook a thorough investigation, found no funds were missing, but indeed check payments had not been posted in a timely manner. Having completed the investigation and account review, the findings were brought by the finance director to the commission's treasurer. And it's important to understand that the finance director's staff basically went through 2 billing cycles to make sure that everything that needed to be covered and reviewed was covered and reviewed, and no information was disclosed prior to approaching the treasurer to ensure that the inquiry was thorough and to protect the integrity of the investigation. Following that, our finance director has already begun implementing several procedures to ensure that future timely handling of funds and management of accounts will occur, and we don't get a repeat of what did happen here. And you see in the report there are 4 steps for the benefit of the public. I'll read them quickly. The Director of Finance will make visits twice a month to each harbor location. That's already going on. Director of Finance will perform unannounced periodic internal desk audits, frequent communication between harbor staff and accounting staff regarding customer accounts to make sure that the accounting staff have accurate readings on the physical state of affairs in terms of tenants and vessels in each harbor. And lastly, to reestablish computer securities to allow both the harbor master and assistant harbor masters to view tenant histories to facilitate management of the accounts. And then the report details full listing of the checks in case you are interested. So that's the report at this time. And staff will take any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brunel. We have one public comment card on this, and that's Mr. John Ullum, and then I will go to commissioner questions.
Apparently, this took a couple months, this investigation and audit. I've requested documentation of the audit. Certainly anything that would require 3 people, multiple weeks to work on, there would be some documentation. Mr. Brunel says there's absolutely no documentation of this audit. So my guess is either they're ripping up the documentation at the end of the day, or they're just winging it. It says that you've gone back 2 periods, billing periods. These checks go all the way back to December of 2012. So what makes you think you don't have a problem in there? If you thought that you had a problem for those 2 months, why aren't you looking at the previous 5 or 6 months? The staff recommendations, we want to talk to Ms. Savray about that. The idea of unannounced periodic internal desk audits. Generally speaking, from what I've read, the courts really frown on fishing expeditions. You don't like people going in and just looking for no reason in people's desks. And I'm sure most of us would intuitively feel that that would be a violation of our privacy. Now, they might have solved your problem. I hope you come up with better controls on the finances of a district and Oyster Point than to periodically internally search people's desks and do audits. But if you do, I would recommend you at least think about that policy and make sure your employees all sign off on that policy, because that is not what I expect where I work. I don't expect anybody's actually going to go look at my desk just for the heck of it. If they thought I'd done something, I certainly would expect that, but not if they're just fishing, looking to get rid of somebody, which is how these things usually are done. If you do it that way, you pick on an employee you don't want, you'll find something in their desk, and that will be used against you. Reestablish computer securities. I'm in the business, I don't have a clue what that means. I think it means maybe setting up access to those accounts or to those computers for certain people. But reestablish computer securities, as I understand it, and I showed it to a few other guys today, is a nonsensical statement. It doesn't mean anything. And so you might want to discuss what that's all about. So that's about it. I would like, again, wonder how thorough the investigation was when it only covered 2 months, and apparently there's no paperwork to show what was done, and your findings are 1 sentence. No funds were missing, but checks had not been posted and accounts were not processed in a timely manner. That seems like a really short summary for a multi-month investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners' questions. Commissioner Holsinger.
I know that at least in one instance with a birther who had just signed up, their automatic payments didn't get processed, and that created some confusion, some anger, some unsettlement, and then some need for reconciliation, and the person apparently, as I understand it, then paid the full arrears when they realized that their account hadn't been debited. But that, in my mind, creates, aside from the financial issue for the district, creates a public relations issue between the district and our tenants, at least in that one instance. And I'm wondering whether there were more instances of tenants or people whose payments weren't processed, who perhaps then ended up with some confusion or conflict with the district, and just to know that we had that, and also more importantly to know what steps were taken to atone for that, smooth ruffled feathers, set things straight so that we didn't stay with egg on our face. And I'd like to just direct that to any of the staff that may be able to comment on it.
During the, during the audit time, I just want to point out that the audit was done by me. I didn't bill the district additional for my auditing. That is part of my job. Therefore, there are no documentation of my audit other than what I found and other things that are personal in nature that cannot be discussed in private, in public. In the 2 months period, when we ran customer statements, we would notice that we took each and every one and we looked at it and we pulled their history to find out, okay, is their account right? You're right, some people weren't being charged. So what we did was we compiled all the data for that one customer, and we charged what they were, charged. We would call them and say, would you like to set up a payment plan? You're still here. Sorry about the inconvenience. And, that's how we processed it, is we went one by one. Right now, the first 2 months when we would send out statements, our counter looked like DMV. There were so many people there and waiting. And, now it's been about 3 months, we get the stragglers. We get people that maybe they got charged late fees when we should really reverse them because they did pay at that time. So we missed $1.75 or something. They come and complain, we take care of it. So we're really trying to, work with the public, and it's just a process. You're talking about 400 plus slips. That's a lot of history to look at over time. So it is taking time, but we're closing in on the end. We're starting to tie things together, and I'm working with the Marina program because some things that were done more manually, they now have electronic versions, such things like dock inventory, who's in what slip. Now you can put in their boat name and the slip, and it looks to make sure that they're now in the spot that they are. If not, it will change it and you can update it, and that's something that I'm going to test at Oyster Point because that would really help keep it more solid, because if someone just puts in a piece of paper on someone's desk and says move, John Doe from slip A1 to B5, well, you can do that, but what happens if someone turns it over and writes the meatloaf recipe and gives it to a buddy? So we're trying to really just streamline things more. And the good part about going to the different facilities is, the employees that deal with the customers on a day-to-day basis, not just the accounting staff, but, the harbor patrol. One thing they asked me today when I was at Pillar Point is, hey, can we get another Visa machine? Because when we have the lines out the door, we want to be able to process things in a more timely manner. So we're really trying to work and provide more customer service to our tenants. It's unfortunate this happened, but I think in the end, it's really kind of been a blessing because we saw what wasn't working and we're working to fix it, and I think things will be better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tucker, anything on this item?
I can respond. As your treasurer, Mr. President, you and I have had communication on this issue. I learned of this from our finance director, who, by the way, did a fabulous job, in my opinion. He told me about this when I was doing bills and claims. It's my habit to do the bills and claims, review them the Tuesday prior to the Wednesday meeting. So on Tuesday, about 11 o'clock, I was at the offices and I reviewed the bills and claims, and the finance director came in and asked for a few minutes of my time and explained the situation to me. And I knew immediately, not so much how much time had been spent, but I knew that the situation had to have air and had to be open, and we had to express what was going on. And it was important to get our message out, or my message out, intelligently and factually, so there'd be no confusion and there was no criminality and there's no big wolf behind the door kind of problem. First opportunity I had to talk to you was about 4 o'clock that afternoon. And I felt it was important to communicate with the president of the board so that I was not the only person that would have the information. There would be 2 of us. In doing so, as the conversation went on, I explained to you what the situation was. Your comments ran along the lines of, what do you think we should do now? And, you know, my relationship with the Half Moon Bay Review is not the strongest on this dais. They often disagree with my position on things, and that's fine. That's certainly their opinion. And I learned as a youngster never to argue with people who buy the traditional ink by the barrel, so I don't argue with them and don't respond to some of their editorials. But I knew, you know, if anybody could get the information out, it would be the Half Moon Bay Review. So when you suggested to me, what should we do now? I said to you, I think you should call Commissioner Brennan. And you said, oh, yeah, my thinking was, I figured Commissioner Brennan, who has been known to do this, in my opinion, in the past, would call the Half Moon Bay Review. They would call me, and I would have an opportunity to get our story out first. Well, it took you, as I understand later, about a half an hour to, that was about 10 past 4. I think you said to me it took you a half an hour to be able to get to her with your schedule. That's like 20 minutes to 5. Apparently you called her. I'm suggesting that she called the Half Moon Bay Review. At 10 minutes to 5, 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from Mark of the Half Moon Bay Review. Thank you, Lord. And he said, I just got off the phone with Commissioner Brennan, and there's missing money, and there's stuff, and already I could see that it was spinning out of control. So I had the opportunity to spend 10 or 15 minutes with him on the phone, explain the entire situation to him, and said to him, you know, I would appreciate one favor. I said, I always respond to you, good, bad, or indifferent, because I know you're on a deadline. I would appreciate if you would explain my comment regarding our finance director, that she did exactly what was appropriate. She did a very, very good job, and I'm very, very pleased and proud of her. And she knew of this, or had an inkling of this, through a prior administration. So she really did a fine job. And I said, I would appreciate, no matter what you write, that you would put my quote about her competence in there. And sure enough, the next day the paper came out, and there was the beautiful article, explained the whole thing rather clearly, I thought, and gave kudos to you, and I was very, very pleased with that. That's my spin on exactly what happened, to the best of my knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Brennan, and then I have some final thoughts on this.
That was a really great description of a serial meeting.
Information only. It's not a serial meeting. There was no decisions made. It was information given to you.
I
Okay, let's have Commissioner
consider
Brennan
that a
continue.
serial
Okay.
meeting.
Yeah, you're
We can
misinformed.
disagree on that,
Okay.
but
Commissioner Tucker, let's have her finish. Commissioner Brennan, please continue.
I wasn't planning on commenting on the serial
Okay.
meeting tonight at all. In fact, I'd kind of forgotten about it, but since it was just brought up and described so perfectly, I had, you know, I definitely want to mention that that was a serial meeting. So that comment from Commissioner Tucker helps explain a few things to me that I didn't understand, because when I received a call from President Bernardo on September 18th regarding the pile of missing checks, it wasn't clear to me when Treasurer Tucker first learned about the missing checks. So we didn't talk about that on the phone. I think you didn't know, or, you know, there wasn't.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
No, I just remember it all happened that afternoon.
Yeah.
Our conversations happened that afternoon.
So I'm wondering how, you found out on the 18th, right? That's what you said tonight?
I'm sorry. who are
You
talking to?
first learned about this problem on the 18th of September?
Tuesday, prior to the Wednesday meeting.
The same day you called me?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I called you urgently.
So how is it, and these were not the questions I planned to ask tonight. I'm a little derailed here, but we'll get back to those in a second. How is it that it took until September 18th for our treasurer to first learn about the fact that we'd had checks missing from 2012? I don't understand how. I understand that Deborah didn't find the checks until the summertime, until July 22nd. But if the checks were found and it was discovered that we'd had missing checks that dated back to 2012, why wasn't the treasurer and the general manager notified at that time, or were they?
The checks that were dated back to 2012 were parking violations, so they had nothing to do with any tenants here. They had to do with people that parked their cars and got a ticket. And when they sent in their check, we used turbo data, so it wasn't like, so they send their check to turbo data and then their parking violation is cleared. So for those people, their check dated in 2012 didn't clear their bank account, so maybe they don't do bank reconciliations or things like that, because we didn't, it wasn't deposited on that. But those checks dated back to 2012, I found on July 22nd. Guaranteed, if that was a birthing tenant and it was 2012, we'd have found out about this a lot sooner. But they were parking violation checks. It looks to me like the, let's see, looks to me like, so the birthing fees started in March of 2013.
And the parking tickets started in July of 2012?
July of 2012, I found parking tickets.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I said tickets. Checks to pay their parking tickets, which had already been posted to clear that violation. I found those as well as the birthing checks.
Okay. So who did you tell on July 22nd that there was a problem, that you discovered some checks?
Human resource manager.
Okay. So you reported it to HR?
Yes,
Why was it an HR problem?
it's personnel.
And so did you tell the general manager?
Of course.
Okay. And did the general manager tell the treasurer?
No, I told the treasurer, we had to investigate the situation
So-
before we could.
What date did you tell the treasurer?
I don't remember. It's in the, whatever date that Half Moon Bay Review was written. I think
September 18th is when you told the treasurer?
whatever day, whatever Tuesday it was during that week.
Yeah, that would have been the 18th.
Yeah.
So that was the first time you mentioned it to the treasurer?
Yes.
But the general manager found out on the 22nd, July 22nd?
Correct.
Okay. And so, Peter, why didn't you communicate that we had a problem with the missing checks to the board when you found out about it?
As we said in the report, we wanted to and felt obligated to do a thorough inquiry, so we knew exactly what had happened and what needed to be done. And that took a while to be done. And in fact, it's not a matter of telling the board first, as in fact our finance director did, was to tell the treasurer. And she did that at a point when it was appropriate to do so.
Did you tell the treasurer at any point?
No.
And so it took about 2 months for you guys to do whatever you were doing and then tell?
That is
400
correct.
accounts, and we were trying to determine if not only were checks mishandled, but if other things were wrong.
What if, like, there had been, I don't know, $100,000 worth of checks found in the drawer? Would you have told the board any sooner?
I can't remember.
I mean, to me, the point is to keep this from the board for 2 months doesn't,
It's a personnel investigation.
but the thing is,
If this got out.
Deborah, I don't want to get in an argument with
No, I'm
you.
just saying, I don't know what.
I want to make a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm not,
Let's let Commissioner Brennan finish and then
Okay.
just
not
please
trying to have an
respond.
exchange.
Okay, well, she's been asking, I've been answering.
Yeah,
I
no,
understand.
I
But I'll be
understand.
quiet.
I understand why that was
That's fine.
confusing, so
Sorry.
I apologize. As board members, we have a fiduciary responsibility. We're responsible here. We are responsible for the finances of the district, ultimately. And if we are not made aware of a problem, then we can't act on it. We can't, you know,
Mr. President, point of order, please.
I'm,
Commissioner Brennan is making his speech. This is an opportunity to ask questions.
I'll let her finish her thought here, and then we'll go back into the question, because, yeah, it's not supposed to be speech, but please continue.
Well, it's a concern, let's just
Okay.
say. It's a
Okay.
serious concern. I'm seriously concerned that we are responsible, we are ultimately responsible for the financial situation with this district. And if there is money missing, we need to know. I want to know. I do not want to find out 2 months later. I want to know immediately if there's a problem. And I expect that the staff will communicate to the treasurer and that the treasurer will promptly communicate to the board. That's my expectation. So I just want to make that clear. And nothing else is acceptable. How can we conduct business any other way? I mean, that's just, I think, kind of common sense that the board must be informed, and we can't wait 2 months to do it. Okay, so I have a couple other questions. I get this, that we've changed some procedures, and I think that's great. And I did really appreciate Deborah's comments about how this is, although challenging, an opportunity for improvement, and I totally agree. And I think that it's great that proactive steps are being taken now that we realize we have a problem and everybody's talking about it openly. And that and I appreciate that Deborah audited and made sense out of all of this. I'm sure it was a complete nightmare. I can totally relate, being a small business owner, what a mess this must have been. When you mentioned technology, you talked a little bit about some of the other software, I think, that some of the other harbors and marinas are using throughout.
No, it's the software that we use that they have upgrades to.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's not what other people do.
So I'm wondering, this is kind of a question, I think, more for Scott. I'm wondering if, since Scott's, worked other places, some of us have not, is there software out there that's better than what we're using? I mean, should we be doing something different so that everybody is looking at the same information regardless of what office they're in? Everybody can see what's happening. It's all really clear. I don't know what you guys are using, but
May I answer?
yeah.
And I just want to allow Deborah to chime in if I'm missing something in that question. But the Marina program, as it's called, to my knowledge, is almost used US-wide. Let's say 90%, because it's so designed for marinas that it's become the standard.
Okay.
And there's upgrades that come out every couple of years, and everybody panics about the upgrades. Because as much as you heard Deborah talking about having to go through everything, I know even at Everett, we had 2,400 slips, not counting houseboats and boathouses, 3,000 accounts. And so when you do an upgrade, you can guarantee that probably 25 to 30% crashes. And so everybody's real hesitant about doing anything because they got it fixed. And then they move forward to the next update. It's like everybody's just crossing their fingers. Mm-hmm. Because, we hope it works, but you've seen Microsoft packages where everybody says it's going to work and it doesn't. And it's that type of thing. And, so that it is a standard, though, in the business.
So that's what you guys used at Everett?
Oh,
Yeah. And do you think there's something that could be done with an upgrade that might make it easier
I think
to
we're at that
prevent
point
this?
now.
Well, now we have to keep current with upgrades, because when you call tech support, they're only supporting their current version. If you've decided not to upgrade maybe, a year ago, that's been and gone. They don't even.
Won't service it.
They won't service it.
Okay.
So we are current in all our updates.
Okay, that helps me understand it. I think that answers, oh, you mentioned one thing, Deborah. When you said some people weren't being charged, you meant some people weren't, what did you mean when you said that to Commissioner Holsinger?
What I meant by that was in looking at, so you pull someone's statement, and 99% of them say they owe you X number of dollars. About, I don't know, maybe 15 or so, I would pull and it said negative. I'm thinking, how is it a negative amount? And usually a negative amount is because Someone's left the harbor, they have their security deposit, we've credited it, and we haven't issued a check yet. That's kind of how you end up with a negative. The other reason you can end up with a negative is someone's come in and paid for their slip, and you didn't put a charge in.
Oh,
So those were the ones that, actually, the people with the mishandled checks, you know, we called each one, and they were very happy to hear from us. They were saying, oh, thank you, I noticed it didn't clear my bank, I was, asked to pay a bigger amount, but I knew I had service, given you a
so then
check."
they'd send another check?
Yeah, some of
Okay.
them sent 2 checks. So those were the people that were happy to hear from us. The people that weren't happy to hear from us were the people that had paid and didn't get charged. Because then you're saying, oh, you didn't have a negative balance. You actually didn't pay for September and October, and you now owe us $275.
So, okay, I just want to understand this. So
Yeah.
in addition to the checks not getting input and put in the bank,
Right.
there was also data that wasn't getting entered as well?
There was some. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
there
So it was
some.
there were multiple things happening.
Yeah, it was just, and that's part of what was taking the 2 months. Like, oh, well,
So there was a
There
data
were-
entry problem.
So we were looking at all data entry, and then, of course, we were looking to see if any funds were missing. Were things credited that shouldn't have been, and just things like that.
So it was just a big mess, pretty
It's
much.
been,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm sorry it did take a long time, and we're still doing it.
Okay.
But that's where I said I'm happy, because when I talked to the Marina program and kind of told them this is what's happening, and they offer different options that we can upgrade to, like, this dock inventory and things like that. They said, oh, people that have this have more control on their receivables.
Great.
So, it's kind of was a double-edged sword in a way,
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. I feel like I understand it so much better. So thanks for explaining that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. I have a question. Mr. Grinnell, wasn't this also the same time when there were staffing changes going on?
Yes.
In the district? So, you put that on top of everything else. I can understand how this could take a couple of months. In the report, I totally understand the integrity of the investigation. As someone who worked at district attorney's office, you cannot make any type of announcements of anything until you're sure of what you're going to, how you're going to explain what happened. I really appreciate the charts on page 2 and 3. It really makes it clear to me from a chronological, from a cost, from a what exactly were these monies. I thought this is very well done. And just in closing on this, I'm not going to deliver a speech. I'm just going to say that you saw a problem, you acted quickly, you made corrections, and I hope this never happens again.
Me too.
But, such as, things happen in agencies. Wherever agency you go, there are things that happen, and it's how you handle it afterwards. So kudos to you again for just taking charge and doing all of this. So thank you. That was an informational report. No action needed on that. Again, thank you. That was very helpful. We are at item 9, bills and claims in the amount of $318,804.81.
Mr. President, members of the board, I reviewed the bills and claims yesterday, Tuesday before the Wednesday meeting, and move approval of the $318,804.81. And I would so move.
Thank you. I hear a motion and second. Are there any questions on item number 9, bills and claims?
I just wanted to make 3 comments. There's been a lot of interest by the public in our legal services costs, so I just wanted to point out that that's included in this report, and it's $4,875 for legal services. And then for the San Mateo County Elections Office, we've got an election expense of $94,243.70, and that's because we currently are on a payment plan, but it doesn't appear that we're going to be able to have a payment plan going forward unless we start trying to negotiate one with the elections office. And then I also wanted to point out that our IT expenses for this month are $2,084.05, and then that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, I just might make one comment just for the education of my colleagues who may not understand what happened.
Yes.
I believe that was our final payment.
We have one more for the election.
Oh, God, okay.
I'm sorry. there's one more.
I was praying that was our final.
No.
And Warren Slocum was the clerk recorder, county recorder at the time, and we negotiated with him to make progress payments, because those were the days when we were getting 4 to 5% interest, and it didn't make sense to send them a large check, and he agreed to do that. The current county clerk, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to work with. I think he comes from the Board of Supervisors, and they like to get their money up front. But I think staff can continue to work with them and try and get that to go on progress payments again.
Okay, any other questions before we do a roll call vote on this? Okay, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Brennan?
Aye.
Commissioner Holsinger?
Aye.
Commissioner Garavano? Commissioner Tucker?
Aye.
President Bernardo?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We have staff reports next. Do we just, let's see, 10, 11, and 12. Do we want separate, I mean, because I see these all together as a staff report. Do we want to take each of these separately, or? Mr. Grinnell?
You have my report, I'll take any questions.
I have questions,
Okay.
because this is, remember, at the beginning of the meeting, you suggested that I raise my
Oh, okay.
questions.
Yes. Commissioner
About-
Brennan, please.
Okay. And I wish that I didn't have so many questions, because I'm sure we're all ready to go. So on page 5 of 7, we've got the updates on items of board interest. It says here, South San Francisco approval of district capital improvement and management plan for Oyster Point Marina Park, city reimbursement of district expenses for selected dock repairs replacements. On September 11th, the City Council of South San Francisco adopted a resolution approving the Harbor District's capital improvement and management plans for Oyster Point pursuant to the agreement between the city and the district and the successor agency to the city's redevelopment agency. And just for clarification, after redevelopment agencies went away, then there was a successor agency formed, which is not made up of the South San Francisco City Council, which is what the past redevelopment agency was. It was members of the City Council were on the redevelopment agency. Now the successor agency has members from various different places, so that's sort of the difference there. The successor agency has listed a $2 million payment to the Harbor District as a pending obligation. As a result of the City Council's action, the payment is expected to be scheduled and released during the first half of the calendar 2014, the latter part of the district's 2013-2014 fiscal year. So this has been on the general manager's report for at least 2 meetings. Is that right, Peter? The last 2 reports?
I can't recall.
I think so.
What's the point?
So on September, so the meeting that this is referencing was the September 11th South San Francisco City Council meeting. And when I read this, I thought, wow, we're getting $2 million. I need to learn more about this whole thing, why we're getting $2 million. Have we gotten other funds from South San Francisco recently? Are we going to get more than the $2 million at a later date? What's the situation? It would be nice to have more information. So I started looking into it a little bit. I haven't had much time to get that far into it. I did ask Commissioner Bernardo, that was my starting place. Well, first I should back up and just say the first thing I did was I watched the City Council meeting, because I thought, well, that'll probably answer most of my questions. I'll just watch the City Council meeting on video,
Mr.
which...
President, point of order, we're having more
Yes.
speech making instead of questions of staff on their reports.
Okay, and I'm
I
sure.
have to give this background in order to make
Okay.
my questions make sense.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Not allowed.
Okay, I will allow I will allow this
Otherwise,
to
we
be.
should put this on, he should give,
Yes.
he
will-
should explain to people.
And he will give a verbal. That was my understanding from early on. But please lead into your question, please.
Okay. So, let's see, where was I? Okay, so I asked, I watched the video, and in the video, I saw during the, I don't know, whatever agenda item that was, that Peter Grinnell gave a presentation, kind of a lengthy presentation to the city council, and Commissioner Bernardo, our president, was there with him, you know, in case, I guess, the council had any questions for him, which they did not. So that was all interesting. So I thought, wow, what are they there for? What are they doing? And so I had no idea. So I looked into what was being approved. So at the city council meeting, there was a decision by the city council to approve a draft Oyster Point Marina Management Plan and Capital Improvement Plan. And I thought, wow, I don't remember hearing about that. I don't remember that the Harbor District Board
Mr.
approved.
President, I rise to a point of order. Is there a
Yes.
question in this speech?
We've got 5 minutes worth of speechifying as supposedly necessary.
I know you don't wanna hear
background
it,
for a question.
We know
I'd like to
it.
hear the question.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan, if you can please get to the question. I'm sorry.
I can't, I have to, there's a lot of financial information here, and I'm getting to that, and, you know, there is no way for me to ask this question simply. There's not. So you saw the emails that I sent you. You couldn't answer my questions.
Okay.
So either I'm going to be able to ask my questions or I'm not. And I'm sorry it's complicated, but sometimes things are complicated.
And I'm going to ask for a ruling on my point of order.
Okay, I'm going to have Commissioner Brennan finish up her questions,
That's
but
what you said
but I will
last
allow 5 minutes on it, because technically she gets 10 minutes according to Robert's rules. So I'm going to give you another.
Have I already had 5 full minutes? Because I keep getting interrupted by 2 of the other board members, so I don't think I've had a full 5 minutes yet.
Okay,
I would
Commissioner.
like to have my 10 minutes.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan, please continue.
Okay, so it's 9:10 right now, and I haven't had a full 5 minutes. I just want to say that for the record, please. Put that in the minutes. Okay, so every time I get interrupted, I don't remember where I left off, so now I've got to back up. So the bottom line is that South San Francisco City Council approved a plan, or 2 plans that are in one document, that I did not recall that this board had approved. And that's because this board did not approve those plans while I was on this board. So that made some sense. But then I learned that actually what happened is that South San Francisco was presented with 2 plans, the Oyster Point Marina Management Plan and the Capital Improvement Plan from the Harbor District back in July 2011, item 14. And they didn't approve those plans. So this was when, sorry, I say city council, but I mean the redevelopment agency, because the city council was the redevelopment agency. So the plans were presented to the redevelopment agency of South San Francisco back in 2011, and the redevelopment agency did not approve the plans. They said, no, we need you to make some changes. This is not presentable. We have to send this to the state. This is not written right. We need it redrafted. So then, I'll just read from this. The plans were later changed by a South San Francisco city consultant, so a consultant that works for the city of South San Francisco, Armando Sanchez, took the plans from the Harbor District, revised those plans, one more than the other. I'm not sure if he revised both, but I know he revised one because he told me that. And he resubmitted the plans to the South San Francisco City Council for approval on September 11th, 2013. That's because the redevelopment agency did not approve those plans when they were first submitted to the redevelopment agency in 2011, so they had to be resubmitted September 11th, 2013 to the City Council for approval before they could go to the successor agency for approval, and before then they could go get things approved by the state. So on September 11th, the City Council approved the revised plans for the Harbor District, which the City Council consultant had amended, changed, including some financial data, and they approved it. And so then the plans for the Harbor District went on to the successor agency, which, like I said, is a replacement for the City Council's redevelopment agency. So it was the plans for the Harbor District, which had been redrafted by South San Francisco, were presented to the successor agency at their board meeting on September 17th, 2013, a few days after the City Council meeting, for approval. They were unanimously approved. So twice they were unanimously approved. The revised plans were approved and then sent on to the state. And my question is, why was a consultant working for South San Francisco revising the Harbor District's plans? Why, if that's fine, so be it. It seems a little odd to me, but whatever. But once the revisions were made by the South San Francisco consultant, the consultant that worked for this city, why did the plans not go back to the Harbor Commission for approval before they went to the South San Francisco City Council for approval? So I'm maintaining that the revisions to the plans should have been made known to the Harbor District Board of Commissioners in advance of going to the South San Francisco City Council for approval and then on to the successor agency for approval, because this board did not have a chance to approve the revisions as made by the consultant working for South San Francisco. So I've got concerns about that. I hope that's clear, because I know this is really convoluted, and believe me, it was really confusing for me to try to understand it. But I did talk with Armando at length.
Point of order. We now
Yes.
have over
Commissioner
5
Hassan.
minutes, and you said you would give 5 minutes. We
She asked
haven't
the
had-
question.
Okay, she's asked the question, yeah.
And
Thank
she
you.
kept talking, so when she was.
Okay.
she-
There's
when she's
additional
making-
money-
she's making
Excuse
her
me,
point
please,
rather than asking
can-
a question.
Can we have Mr. Grinnell answer this, this question? I'm sure there's a simple answer for this, Mr. Grinnell. Is there?
First of all, what Commissioner Brennan hasn't mentioned is the fact that the documents went to the City Council. The City Council had several questions about them, and Mr. Sanchez contacted me, informed me of the council's questions. I provided him with answers to the questions. The several questions, I think there were about 6, roughly, were not of a substantial nature in terms of changing anything of major substance in either the management plan or the capital improvement plan. And no major dollar amounts or major actions or anything. Mr. Sanchez took what I gave him, inserted that into the document that actually went into the council's board packet, and presented it to them. And then, as you know, you and I went to that meeting, and we presented and responded to other questions, and that's it. That's all that happened. And there
Well,
was no basis
just for clarification,
going
you
around.
presented, I sat there and I was there to support you, but you presented. I did not present it. Any other questions, Commissioner Brennan?
Just that I don't think that that's really how we should be conducting business if,
Point of order, this is a comment, not a question.
Okay.
I asked for a ruling on my.
the question
Yeah,
is.
it is a comment.
The question is, how can we do this differently next time? I don't think
That's a
this
good
was a
question.
good way to do it. How can we improve? How can we make sure that the board is approving our own plans and that they're not being outsourced without us knowing about it?
That's a really good question.
Point
Mr.
of
Grinnell?
information, if I may, Mr. President. The fact is that we were informed by the city personnel that time was of the essence. The council was going to take this up, and they needed to have this before the council at the next session. And so there was no time, even assuming you would want to make the time, which, again, as I say, there were no substantive changes to anything, so there's no reason to.
Could you spend just one moment and tell us how you came to, or how we came to do the capital plan and why we had to do a capital plan?
Oh, certainly.
And what is it?
Certainly.
Just 1 minute, please. Do it succinctly.
Yeah, very easily and quickly. On March 25th, 2011, there was an agreement executed by the city, with its redevelopment agency, and the Harbor District, which established several things, one of which was that the city would reimburse the Harbor District $2 million for dock repairs. And that was conditioned on the Harbor District providing the city with a 5-year capital improvements
Thank you.
plan.
That's the
And a
answer.
management
Thank you.
plan.
Thank you.
That's the origin of the.
I have a couple other questions.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan?
So when I talked to staff at South San Francisco, they mentioned that there was an earlier payment for $35,000, which was to cover our legal fees. I'm not sure what exactly those were for. And then there was also another payment for $600,000 for something else, and I have that all here, but I'm trying to be quick because you guys don't want me to get into detail. And then I was told, let me finish just 1 second, that there would be another payment made down the road for $1,793,248. So I was told that there'd be this other close to $2 million payment made later. So because there's all this money involved and payments happening at different times, and South San Francisco amending our plans and the board not being told about it, I think we really need to get more clarity on the process.
Point of order, Mr. President. This is speechifying and comments.
So
They're
what-
not questions.
what can we
I asked for
do?
a ruling on my point of order.
Okay, you're correct, it's a comment. Do you have a question, Commissioner Brennan?
What can we do to clean this up? This is a question for Grinnell.
I have no idea what you're talking about by way of cleaning up. The fact of the matter is that the $35,000 and the $600,000 are monies that the city has paid the district a long time ago. The $600,000 was for cost reimbursement of the Harbor District's local sponsor share of the Corps of Engineers wave attenuator project, which was phase 2 of the breakwater entrance modification. The $35,000 was to cover legal costs entered into by the Harbor District in the course of negotiating with the city on the agreement that ultimately was executed on March 25th, 2011. So there's nothing to be cleaned up. The money was paid according to the understanding from these agreements. And that's the end of the story.
So I would like a more transparent process, and I'm wondering how we could arrive at it. So that's a question. And I'm also wondering, when we have our board president go to a city council meeting of some other city to be part of a presentation where there's going to be $2 million given to us or some money changes hands, I think that this board needs to be notified about that in advance of the meeting.
This is more speechifying and comments. It's not a question, and indeed the question was a rhetorical question in the nature of a criticism, not a true question. Otherwise, she would have stopped and
Yes.
listened for the answer.
Are you in court right now?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Brennan, is there a question that you want to ask Mr. Grinnell? Another question? In addition to how can we make this process better of information flow?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Now, given what we've discussed here,
Yes.
do you agree that it would have been appropriate to let the board know that you were planning to go to that meeting in advance?
I agree that it would have been appropriate, but at the time, because of the time crunch, in fact, I didn't even think I was going to make honestly, I didn't even think that I was going to make that September 11th meeting because it was so last minute. And that I found out at the last minute that the city council would appreciate the figurehead of the organization being there. I almost didn't even make it. But I was there to attend.
Why wasn't the whole board told about this? Why were you being communicated with privately without the board knowing about this urgent issue?
Well, I didn't think it was an urgent issue, first of all. It's a routine issue. It's a matter of making sure that the successor agency has the same information that was given to the redevelopment agency that's now defunct. So to me, that's pretty routine. I mean, this was about money that's been approved since 2011. So this isn't something that was new, you see. So to me, it wasn't anything, it's pretty routine.
You didn't think that the whole board would want to know about this?
Well, the whole board is learning about it right now. It's in the general manager's
you knew
report, and
about
it's
it
been in the general manager's report.
Not before September 11th, it wasn't. There was no notification to the board whatsoever that any of this was going to be happening.
Okay.
Had I known, I might have wanted to show up at the city council meeting, and I didn't have that opportunity.
Understood, and my apologies for the next time I attend any event on behalf of the commission, and I want to apologize to my colleagues, next time I attend any meeting where I am the figurehead of the organization, I will let you know as soon as possible. I'm sorry about that.
And it's not that it's not that I have a problem with you going and representing the board. I don't. But if you are going to go represent the board at a meeting where money's changing hands or there's something important happening that affects the district, that could benefit the district or hurt the district, whatever the case may be, I at least want to know that that's happening so that I'm informed, and so then I can make an informed decision whether it's relevant for me to attend that meeting or not. I don't want to find out about it later and then have to spend hours watching meeting videos and trying to call staff people in South San Francisco and ask questions and try to piece this whole thing together when simply it could have been explained up front and saved me a lot of time and energy, and I would have felt like I knew what the heck was going on. So thank
Understood, and again, like I said, it was very last minute. I myself didn't even know that I was going to be needed for anything. I just had thought that the general manager would attend the meeting, answer questions of city council, and then we get our $2 million reimbursement for the wave attenuators.
Thank you.
But point well taken, you're absolutely correct, and I will make sure that does not happen again when I attend to anything that represents the district.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the general manager's report? I have none. Okay. Director of Finance, Ms. Galarza, anything on your report?
No, nothing additional.
Okay, any questions from Ms. Galarza's report?
Just a couple questions.
Commissioner Brennan.
I would really like to see a report on what kind of revenue is coming in to the district from the fish buying fees that we're now collecting. So since we have a new revenue stream, which this district has never had before since the new fish buying leases were signed, I would like to see a report on what money is coming in from those fees. And I know we've gotten a little...
Point of order, this is a speechifying and a comment and a request that should have gone on request. It is of staff. It is not a question.
I'm asking for a report.
I heard a question in there.
That's it.
Please, okay, you wanted a report.
Yep.
I'll respond.
Yes.
I will follow the chain of command, and you can request it and have it approved by the board, and Peter can tell me to do so.
Commissioner Brennan, can you please clarify exactly what you want in the report? Like what exactly specifically would be in the report? What type of information?
We would see all three fish buyers itemized with the amount of money that they're paying, because they're paying monthly, a monthly fee. And we would see how much money they are paying each month, and we would see how much money the district is essentially charging them, and we would have information about the tonnage or you know, how that figure was arrived at.
Okay. Okay, that's
Is that clear?
That's the request.
I'll just work through the chain of command.
Is that clear to you, Peter, what I'm asking for?
Well, I think
Mr. President, this is a
Yes.
request to put something on the agenda that requires commission approval, I believe. We already are going to be getting periodic reports annual or quarterly or something that will have this as one of the items. To have it on a monthly agenda item is to ask that something be put on the agenda.
I didn't ask for it monthly.
Okay, Commissioner Brennan, I heard the request, so can we do that? I'm trying to think of how to do this appropriately. Can we do that under, when we do statements? I know that we were supposed to do it during requests in the beginning, but can we push that to Commissioner statements instead of right now? Or would you like to just vote on this right now and just, I'd like to see.
Deborah, just for clarification, you don't normally include the fish buying fees in your quarterly report, do you?
Cash is showed in the quarterly report.
But it doesn't break it out by fish
No, it
bar?
does not.
Okay, because we would not be getting that information in the quarterly report. Just please put that in the minutes, that what Commissioner Holsinger just indicated was not correct.
Okay, I'm sorry, did that answer your question?
I want to see a report
Okay.
on the fees. I don't care how we get it, but
Okay.
I need to get a report, so whenever we need to ask for that,
Okay,
I mean,
well,
I just asked, so.
okay, well, I'd like to put that under commission statements.
Okay.
And any other questions for?
And that's a request from staff. I don't think we need to vote on that.
Okay.
But I have a chain of command to follow. If every single one of you asked me for something, I would just be doing every little thing, and he would have no idea of the tasks that I'm completing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. He is my manager.
Understood.
Who reviews my work, gives me evaluations, and he needs to be apprised of what I'm doing with my time.
I'm asking him for it. I'm asking our general manager for a report on the fees that the fish buyers are paying.
And I take my instructions from the Board of Harbor Commission.
Okay, well, would you rather get it in the form of a public records request?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, was your question answered? Do you want to, how would you like to? handle
Well,
it?
I think it's pretty obvious that the board isn't going to vote to provide this information, so I'm not sure it's really worth taking it to a vote at this point. Even if I had one other vote, we would still be split. So I can count votes, and I can see that it's going to fail.
Okay.
So I would, at this point, just go the Public Records Act request route. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Any other questions for Director of Finance? Okay, thank you. HR Manager, Mr. Grinnell, are you going to speak on Ms. Harris's behalf?
No, I am not. You have the report from her.
Any questions?
Okay. Are there any questions for HR issues? Okay. Moving right along to operations. Mr. Grindy?
Yes, you have a couple different reports here. So we'll send to you online. October 2nd, was the oldest one here. You have my report there. Taking questions, just to remind you of the events that are also listed on there.
Do we have public comment on any 13 or 14?
No.
Okay.
I do not. Okay, any questions for Mr. Grindy on 13 or 14?
I do. I have a question.
Yes. Commissioner Tucker.
I'm looking at the last page of your report, and this is, I think it's the same report that Nicole David, same memo that Nicole David presented with us at the last meeting.
Oh,
is
you're
it?
talking the item 14, I believe.
Correct.
Sorry, item 13.
I must say that I couldn't comment then, but I can certainly comment now in your report. I think that's devastating to put sewer pipe under Johnson Pier right next door to, in a picture ad, to crab fishermen, I think it's Jim Anderson, cleaning crabs for sale. I mean, that's devastating to the fishing industry in our community. So much so that although her comments, some of which I understood, clearly, I think are a little bit misleading. I called for the report from the Resource Conservation District, which we paid, I think, $15,000 for as our fair share. And Kellex did a beautiful job, and we have also a PowerPoint presentation, and I pulled those as well. And it shows that there was no human fecal contamination in the harbor. We continually do studies, we continually do surveys right near Johnson Pier, quite frankly. And this picture alongside the fishermen implies that there's leaks, and there's no leaks in our pipe underneath Johnson Pier that I'm aware of. Am I mistaken, Mr. Green? I think it's really poor judgment to put those pictures together and to threaten the industry of fishing that we rely on at Pillar Point Harbor. Whether Ms. David is well informed or not, I think it's really very hard for me to agree to or to swallow. I don't know where the hell those pictures came from, but I think they're egregious, I'll be honest with you.
I have some comments whenever it's my turn.
Thank you.
That's all I have. That's really disgusting.
Do we have
Thank
public comment on 13 or 14?
Yes, we do, and actually, it's up to you. Would you like to go first, or would you like to have the public comment
Well,
go?
I
Because
thi-
typically, they would happen before the commissioners' comments.
That's why I'm asking, just because I think it's appropriate to have the public comment before.
Okay, because this just came in. I just got it from...
We lost track of the item numbers. It jumped from like 8 to 13.
No worries. We have two for item 14. We have Leslie Webster and Sean Cartwright. So Leslie Webster, please. Thank you.
We can discuss whether the pipes are leaky or faulty. Wind breaks occurred, wind testing was done. It's time to move on and focus on getting the pipes replaced in a timely manner. We need to move forward to make the harbor a place with minimal risk for bacterial pollution. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Cartwright.
I just wanted to say that it's crazy because it seems like any of us that say anything perhaps against you guys or that you perceive as against you guys, you attack us. And I think that that's really sad, and it says a lot about you. It's like somehow you're Nixon and we're on your enemies list. I don't know. And personally, I'm a little surprised by you, Scott. I've always liked you, and you were, one of the people in this whole place that I actually like. But it's from what I heard, you were passing these out to like fishermen or fish buyers, and I think that that's something that you really stepped out of line for that one. And you making it sound like she's trying to go after fishermen, pointing these out that we've had this issue. It's the same thing that Scott pointed out, Sabrina pointed out, saying, hey, we've got this issue and it could be a serious issue. Somebody pointing that out, that's fine, that's a good thing. And pointing out, here, we have a leaky pipe. This could impact this man cleaning crabs here. That's all it is. It's just the juxtaposition. We've got a pipe that could leak someday. She didn't say it was leaking, could leak, or was currently leaking. Said it could leak, there could be an issue. And if you had a storm, or if you just had anything that hit that pipe, you guys said that those pipes are old. So all you need is something to hit that pipe, and you've got a leak. And it's not like they're inspected every single day. They're inspected routinely. So if something hit that pipe, it would be a little while before you found out that it was leaking. I'm not saying it'd be months, but it would be a little while, and you could have a contamination. And that would be an issue. And then because of all your hijinks here, and like the whole let's screw Sabrina game that you continue to do and act like children again tonight, you guys postponed it because it was better to walk out of the meeting and end the meeting late, and then stay later. And that was when these two were trying to bring it to you guys twice, 2 meetings in a row. So in that time, other people are bringing it up, and the issue needs to be addressed. Whether it's about to leak or whether you just have an issue, nobody said it was leaking. We're saying we need to address this issue. Same as Scott said, same as Sabrina said. But because it's coming from other people, and because you think that these people might be aligned with Sabrina, you're like, ooh, let's attack them. And then somehow you drag poor Scott into this. And it's like, I always liked Scott, I just don't like his boss. And I just think that this is ridiculous. The point is that you guys just need to study this, and attacking somebody, the messenger, is just ridiculous. And I just wanted to also say that you said we should look at this property. You said, let's look at this property. And last week, or 2 weeks ago, it was brought in a real estate agent. He said, hey, let's go across the road, right across the road, and look at this other property. Save the Harbor District money, we look at this property. And none of you said, let's go look at that property. You guys passed on that. So I don't know what you're doing, but your priorities are screwed, as usual.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Grindy on items 13, 14?
I have questions.
Okay, have Commissioner Brennan and then Commissioner Holsinger. Commissioner Brennan?
So I spoke with Jimmy Anderson on Sunday, and he told me that it was his understanding that the Harbor Patrol was handing out.
Point of order, she's making a speech.
I'm asking a question.
Okay, so we're going to get to the
You're
question.
not in court right now.
I'm following Robert's Rules of Order, and I'm asking for a ruling on my point of order from the President of the Board.
Okay, I will have Commissioner Brennan ask her question.
So the question is, did you instruct the Harbor Patrol to hand out Nicole David's letter regarding concerns about old pipes to people interested in purchasing fish?
No.
I need to ask a point of information from council. Council, I'm concerned about the possible liability exposures for the author of this for defamation, because it's associating a fisherman and his profession and livelihood with sewage, picture by picture. That creates an issue of defamation per se, that creates a potential liability.
I'm being interrupted. Why am I being interrupted?
It is a point of information.
So that creates a potential for liability for the author of this document for defamation per se. If Council, or Commissioner Brennan is now asking our harbor master whether or not he authorized or directed the promulgation of this, which would be a republication, thereby creating a liability risk for the district. My question to you is that potential analysis correct? And should we then not, as a matter of due prudence for legal liability exposure, suggest that the harbor master not answer that question?
He already did. He already answered it, so we've moved on. Now
I'm asking legal counsel a question. This is going.
We're at the point of information, so please, Ms. Savory, if you can answer that question.
I have only seen the letter now. I can't indicate to you whether your premise that this is defamatory is correct or not.
Okay. If this were determined to be defamatory, per se, would the republication of it by Harbor District personnel be considered to be a new defamation, per se? Would we then create legal liability for the district?
I normally don't like to answer those sort of questions in a public meeting, but I will say that for public employees, there are a great number of immunities that exist in the government code and in the harbor navigations code for their discretionary acts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Commissioner Brennan, your question.
Thank you. So when I spoke with Jimmy Anderson, just as a point of information, he did tell me that he gave permission to have his photo used. So apparently Commissioner Tucker wasn't aware of that. To Nicole David. She spoke with him in advance of using his photo, and he gave her permission to use it. So I wanted to make that clarification. And I also wanted to clarify that in her letter, nowhere does she state that we have an active leak. There is no mention of any leak whatsoever in her letter.
She's making a speech. She's not asking a question of staff.
I know you don't want to hear what I'm
Ask
saying.
the point of order be ruled upon. Mr.
Okay,
President.
okay, I will entertain a question to Mr. Grindy, if there's a question there.
So the question is for Commissioner Tucker. What made you think that in the letter it said that there was a leak? Where in the letter, which is right here, does it say that there's a leak? Nowhere.
Okay,
I never said that the letter said
Commissioner Brennan, though, just in terms of,
Good, I'm glad that you said that you know that in that letter, nowhere in that letter does it state that we have a leak.
I never said that she said there was a leak.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. You answered that question. I'm going to keep going.
okay, and these questions are going to be directed at staff, right, not to fellow commissioners?
Well, I
or-
think that was an important question. Okay, so what I'm noticing is there seems to be, I don't know, I can't really think of the right word to use, but I'm wondering if there's some attempt at a smear campaign happening here, because Nicole David applied for a position on this board. She applied for appointment in 2013. she did not get enough votes to be appointed, but Commissioner Tucker was appointed. I'm concerned that perhaps
I rise to a
Commissioner
point of order. I
Tucker...
was never appointed to anything. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
1998. I
Okay, I'm sorry. You were appointed in 1998. I meant Commissioner Holsinger. So Commissioner Holsinger was appointed, Nicole applied. I'm concerned that what's happening here is that there is an attempt by two of the commissioners to discredit a respected scientist. And I think that I think that's personal. I think it's a personal attack. I think it's totally inappropriate to bring to this meeting.
Why would we attack her?
That is what you're doing.
Why?
Okay, and if I may...
Probably because you don't want to lose
Excuse
the
me.
next race.
Excuse me, is there, can I please, if there's a question here somewhere, because this is not supposed to be a conversation up here, but is there a question that we're going to ask Mr. Grindy? Because I'm hearing conversations between commissioners.
So this issue should have been decided at the last meeting when we voted. And I don't understand why Commissioner Grindy decided to
Harbor Master
Harbor Master Grindy decided to bring it up again in the form of his memo. But there are some incorrect statements in the memo, and I'd like to hear...
Please, Mr. President.
Yes.
She is speechifying, she's making comments, she's not asking a question, she's wasting this commission's time.
You're wasting
I
time.
would ask for a ruling on my point of order rather than simply directing Commissioner Brennan to get to the question. There should be a ruling that she is out of order so that we begin establishing a record of that.
Harbor Master Grindy, could you please...
Commissioner Brennan, please...
Could you please explain to me what your intentions were, and
I'm allowing her to ask her question.
can you please
But
clarify?
You're not ruling my point of order.
Can you please clarify in your memo?
I'm
Perhaps
ruling
there was a
that I'm
misunderstanding.
allowing her to ask her question.
Could you please clarify your memo? I think there was a misunderstanding, and I'm hoping you can clarify it for us, because it appears that you're stating something in your memo that's not accurate. Would you like to clarify that?
I think at this point, my feeling is that the way I read this and the way I viewed that memo that came out.
What memo?
The document that has the pictures.
You mean Nicole's letter
Yes,
to the
yes,
board?
yes.
It was a letter to the board.
Yes. It wasn't just to the board, it was dropped here.
It was,
So it was given to staff as well, and I both talked about the other day. And I, like always, talk to my staff after the board meeting, because that's communication of what went on at the board, what's the newest thing going on. And I did show them this, I believe I did give them a copy, and I said, as well as talk about the pipe getting replaced, whatever. And what they did with it, I have no idea. What I do know is that Jim Anderson, as I told you before, came to the office when I was working Sunday, and when I was up front, he asked, do you have a copy of that? So I found a copy and gave it to him.
thank you for clarifying that. When I popped in on Monday, you weren't there, and I spoke with...
Point of order.
I have a
Commissioner Brennan is
question.
making a speech, she's not asking a question. I'd ask for a ruling on my point of order that she is out of order.
I have a question. I'm getting to the question. You're not
Point of
allowing
order,
me to
she's
ask.
speechifying. If I had not interrupted, the speechifying would have been continued rather than simply ask a question.
It's not your place.
Okay. I'm going to rule on this. And Commissioner Brennan, can you please, when you do ask your question, how do I say this politely? Make it sound more like a question.
Okay, I'll
So it's
try.
not quote-unquote speechifying.
I'll try to do that. I don't know
Because we
what...
can't be, because it has to be a question and not comment, unless we're talking about commission statements and comments.
I'll do my best. Okay.
Thank
I'm going
you.
to try
Thank you.
hard. Thank you for your patience.
No,
So,
please go ahead.
Okay, so John Draper made it clear to me that there had been a leak in the past. Are you aware that there was a leak in the past?
Yes, and I've said that even in our meeting.
I thought so. I thought you'd said that. You'd said that
the pipe
repeatedly.
But not, if you let me finish, please.
Yeah.
You asked a question. The pipe has been broken a couple times because of either boats hitting it, logs hitting it. I think I said many pieces of that. Boats tying their ropes to it, whatever. Different tide changes when they have something hanging on the pipe. Because there's only 3 toilets on the end of the pier and then the pump out system there, They've always made the repairs or brought a contractor to make the repairs when that's occurred. And they shut down the system. I believe I said that at our last meeting.
And the Harbor Patrol made the repairs, correct?
Not all of them, no.
Oh, I just asked because Assistant Harbor Master Draper told me that they made the repairs.
Typically, they would make the repair till they can get a contractor in so they can be permanently fixed.
Okay. And
Depending on the breakage.
right now, there is no leak, correct?
Correct.
That's what I thought. I thought we had no leak. I certainly didn't read that we did have a leak, so I'm not sure why we're even having this.
If I misread it, I apologize to the writer. But at the same time, when you put the two pictures together that show crabs and sewer pipes, you know, a picture is 1,000 words, and that reaction.
Did you know that Jimmy Anderson gave Nicole David permission to use that photo?
No.
Thank
He
you.
did not say that when I spoke to him that
Okay.
Sunday morning.
Okay, you might want to ask him about that again. So I understand the concern, and I think that, you know, if I were a fisherman, I'd be
Point
concerned
of order.
Question.
as
The
well.
commissioner is speechifying, is making a statement, is not asking a question. I'd ask that she be ruled out of order.
Commissioner Brennan,
I'm trying to think how
I can only
put
do this so much, otherwise, I mean, it has to be a question.
Okay, I'm coming up with a question.
You only have 15 minutes left. I have some comments.
When do you think we're going to have the pipes replaced?
We got approval last meeting
That's a
to
good question.
go out to bid. I do a walkthrough on the bid on Monday. I anticipate, without having the dates in front of me, that it'll probably be about 3 weeks before we receive the bids. So probably the first week in January or so, those bids would be coming back to the district board for approval or non-approval of the bid.
So in your opinion, this is fast-tracked? You're on it?
We're already on it.
Okay.
The thing is, we are also doing the due diligence as a public agency to go out to the property.
Okay. And so just the last question is, in your opinion, we don't need to worry about leaks at this point. We're fixing it. You're not anticipating any
We
leaks?
check it regularly just to make sure that nothing's hit it. Just like we do many other issues in the harbors and marinas, you know, where, you know, you may have a storm tonight and that a log could roll in or a boat could roll into the wrong spot. So we continue to check.
Okay.
We
And
do that as part of the rounds.
thank you. And in your opinion, the fish-buying public has nothing to worry about with regards to this pipe at this time, correct?
No.
Thank you.
And to follow up on that answer, it is my understanding that possibly you or others have said that we were handing them out to fish buyers. I have not heard that till it was said through, I believe, you to John.
I heard that from a fisherman, so that's where I got that. And you know how rumors spread, so it might have been
As far as
incorrect.
I know, Jim was the only one that asked for a copy.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. I really appreciate the information.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tucker, you have one question, I
Scott,
believe?
yeah, just one, and it's a question.
Okay.
Scott, don't we have a monitoring operation going on right near Johnson Pier for fecal matter?
Yes. Yeah, the testing is monthly at the far end outside the pier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
Okay, and then I have a question. Commissioner Holsinger.
Mr. Grindy, this report by Nicole David has 3 photographs, correct?
Yes.
And the bottom photograph refers to a potential risk for exposure through recreational sports, correct?
Yes.
And do you understand that to mean a potential risk for exposure due to the leaking pipe or the corroded pipe?
It would be my impression that that would be because of leaky pipe.
And is it your understanding that that reference also then suggests that there is a risk to the potential risk for exposure to the public in relationship to the fishing industry because of that leaking pipe?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me whether or not any of the fishermen or other tenants out at Killer Point Harbor had the same conclusion, to your knowledge?
I could not answer that.
Thank you.
Actually, not going to ask my question. We are done with this item, I believe, unless there's anything else. We are now we have about 7 minutes left till 10 o'clock, so commission statements, we have commission statements. Commissioner Tucker.
May I go first?
Yes.
I have just 2 items. I continue to have problems with the redacting, non-redacting. And I'm speaking of just one Public Records Act request from Mr. Olam. And I spoke with him briefly during our bio break, as you call it.
I'm sorry.
I saw 2 opinions outside, legal opinions, outside of our council for the district. And I even posed the question, what if I remove my concern regarding redacting and allow whatever information was there pertaining to James Tucker to be open and revealed? And they laughed and said that was really grandstanding and that it didn't make anything mild with my colleagues and it would put too much pressure on other people. So I'm looking for a way to get around redacting, and I just can't seem to find one, unless this board as a whole group votes to remove the redacting. And I think the issue at hand and the particular request is nebulous. I mean, I don't think, as treasurer, I saw it, and I saw the numbers and the names and everything else involved, and there's nothing there to be secretive about. But when you redact, it always appears to be secretive. And then again, the privilege of privacy comes up, and my friends told me the same thing. And so it would be along the lines of counsel here at the district telling us the same thing. And there's a lot of confusion about it, and I just can't seem to find a way to get around it. And if anybody knows how I can get around it, I would appreciate it. But it's very frustrating because as treasurer, I look at all those numbers and there's nothing there. There's nothing that shouldn't be transparent. The only other issue I have, and it's a personal matter, it pertains to Commissioner Brennan and the district manager and the complaints she has, and that's public now. I got several emails today before coming here with questions and answers between the 2 of them. And I know he has legal representation, and I believe Commissioner Brennan has legal representation. And this is a serious matter. I don't know legally that they should be communicating with each other, because there was questions about how much has been charged so far for the investigation, and these are things that neither one of them should be talking about. Mm-hmm. Counsel, am I crazy about that, or is there a legal reason that they shouldn't be talking to each other?
I have instructed the general manager early on that he should have no involvement in answering any questions in regard to the complaint, and that it's directed at him.
And since you represent us as well, could you make the same caution to my colleague? I mean, she has an attorney. I don't want to see this thing get crazy.
I would suggest that any communications in regard to the complaint not go back and forth between the 2 parties. I think that's wise.
And the only one we can control is him, so you're telling him that he should not respond anymore to those kinds of questions.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Holsinger, do you have anything?
I'll pass.
Commissioner Brennan, and then hopefully there'll be time for my one thing. Commissioner Brennan.
Try to be quick. So I think I know what Commissioner Tucker was referring to, and at this point, tonight's the first time I've heard any instruction from this district's council that that General Manager Grinnell and I should not be in communication. So I think I'm going to need a little further clarification on that, which maybe we can do offline, but that's probably going to require some legal fees. So I would need permission to talk to council about that.
I'd suggest you talk to your own counsel.
I need to know, well, let me put it this way. What I want to find out is what the costs for the investigation are, because I feel it's important to know what the costs for the investigation are. So I could put it in as a public records request or whatever's preferable at this point. I don't understand, but I don't see why an attorney should have to request that information.
Mm-hmm. I think that, Commissioner Brennan, based on what I've heard, I think that a simple public records request would suffice. I think that would get you your information.
That would be fine with me. Mm-hmm. And then regarding the email that I received today at, let's see, this was from Peter Grinnell at 2:33 this afternoon. He sent me an email, Commissioner Brennan, blah, blah, blah. Then he says, questions for you. What are your duties at Digital Fusion Media? how many hours per week do you devote to these duties? If you supervise staff, how many do you supervise? If your DFM work, that's the acronym for my company, DFM, if your DFM work, is your DFM work done exclusively at home, i.e. remote? If not, how much time do you spend at the DFM premises? How do you adjust your time put in at DFM with your time devoted to the great many Harbor District interests? Signed, Peter Grinnell, General Manager. So apparently the General Manager has a lot of questions about the operations of my company that I own. And I am flattered that he's taken an interest in my company, but I really don't understand how his interest in my company pertains to my work on this board, and frankly found these questions to be pretty inappropriate. So this doesn't seem to be in keeping with council's recommendation. Just wanted to point that out.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I have one quick question. This is for staff. Yes, I realize the time, but I haven't been able to talk really tonight, okay? So I'm going to say something. I know that we have appreciation events, because where I work, we just had a picnic. It's an employee appreciation picnic, and it was really nice. It was at the park. We had barbecue. I have a question on like proper process procedure and legal issues. So this kind of borders on the legal issues. What is our policy on like drinking, let's say? Because I know that where I work, during one's lunch hour or during like employee appreciation events, we could have soda, we could have iced tea, but we cannot have alcohol. So like, let's say we were to have a dinner at Bertolucci's. Can we order wine? Is that, is that that's within legal, within the district's legal?
We can't pay for it, but you can pay for it.
No, I'm not talking about the paying for it. I'm talking about drinking alcohol. That's kind of my question. I don't want an answer now, but at some point maybe someone could just mention to me in a couple of sentences, according to district policy, you can drink alcohol during your lunch hour or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's an HR question, but I just wanted to throw that out there, okay? Because I know that where I work, we are not allowed at all. Even when we're entertaining, we're not allowed to have alcohol, so that's kind of our thing. So, okay, and I'm sorry, it's 10 o'clock. So,
Motion to adjourn, or are we automatically adjourn?
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I hear a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. We have one no. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.